The search for the severed arm of William Wallace continues. My previous video explored the possibility that St Makar Cathedral in Aberdeen, I hope I got that pronunciation right, could be the location where it was buried. If you haven't seen it already, it's worth going and checking that out first. As it turns out, there's actually another kirkyard in Aberdeen where it's rumoured his arm may have been laid to rest. Situated just to the south of Aberdeen's harbour is the ruins of St Fittick's church. It has a similar history to that of St Makar Cathedral. According to legend, the area was established as a religious site by the mid-600s. By the late 1100s, a chapel had been built here. The ruin that stands likely dates back to the late 16 or early 1700s, with the bell tower displaying the date 1704. The masonry from the earlier building was likely used in its construction. In the past, there would have been several buildings here, but now all that remains is a shell of the watch house, built in the 1800s as part of an effort to protect against body snatchers. The grave markers of the kirkyard are relatively modern when compared to the history of this site, which is often the case. But it is here that Thomas White Ogilvie, writing in 1901, asserted that William Wallace's arm was buried. Legend and Ogilvie claim that Wallace was in the northeast of Scotland in the year 1297. He laid siege to the English, garrisoned inside Dunnottar Castle to the south, and attacked the ships on the shores of Tory. After his execution, it's claimed that Wallace's arm was displayed in Aberdeen in retribution for those attacks. Ogilvie writes, "But that could not be. When night fell on the city, the limb was taken by patriots from the town gate and carried across the river to the old churchyard by the bay. And tradition points to its southeast corner as the spot where the dust is, in part, that of Scotland's hero." If you visit, you likely won't find any evidence, but you will find memorials dedicated to the memories of others. They're no less valuable, and it's certainly worth the time to stop and read the grave markers. Although it's possible, there's no evidence that William Wallace ever actually visited Aberdeen. Many believe that it was actually Andrew de Moray or Murray who was responsible for and carried out the attacks on the English here. He merged his army with Wallace during the successful 1297 Battle of Stirling Bridge. However, he was fatally wounded and died sometime thereafter. It's the martyrdom of Wallace that's drastically shaped the way we think about this period in Scottish history. But what's your opinion? Do you think part of Wallace is buried somewhere in Aberdeen? Or perhaps you think Cambus Kenneth Abbey is a more likely location? Let me know in the comments. There are a number of sources that cover the life and legend of William Wallace, and if you're interested in this particular legend, I've included a couple of key sources in the description for you to check out. You might be glad to hear they have little to do with Braveheart, although the movie brought a lot of attention to Wallace and Scottish history. It's unlikely we'll ever know with absolute certainty the location where Wallace's arm was actually buried. Many will argue passionately for one or the other, but personally, I'm okay with not knowing. Any excuse to get out and explore a cemetery, not that I actually need one.